Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist First and Weather here. It is April 12th, 2020, and so this video I have a lot to talk about. We have the potential for a severe weather outbreak for the eastern portions of the southeast and also the mid-Atlantic. Conditions are looking very favorable for severe weather, so let's get right into it. This is the Storm Prediction Center (SPC) outlook for Monday, and as you can see over here, you have a wide swath of the enhanced category over here, and around that, this was previously only a slight risk, and they updated us to an enhanced risk. Around that, you have slight, and then you have marginal around that. But you can see the National Weather Service and SPC are really thinking the greatest risk for severe weather will be in this area right here in this orange color. This stretches down from southeast Georgia all the way up to Richmond and points east and west, with the reason for the greatest, the reason for the enhanced risk in these eastern portions is that there will be more time here for destabilization and also instability to develop, as we see more time before that line comes in and that warm front goes through. And also to the right, we have the tornado probability legend, and as you can see, very high probability for this region. Usually you never really see anything more than 2 or 5% in the east and mid-Atlantic, but the sheer values are just so high. The National Weather Service is even implementing a hash mark for these localities, which is significant, and then around that you have a wide area of 5% tornado probability. And later in the video I'm going to get into why there's just such a high or relatively high tornado risk for this region because of that shear, and so I'll get into that later. Now here is the National Weather Service outlook. As you can see, one of the biggest reasons for the severe weather threat is just how strong the winds are in the low-level jet at the 850 millibar level. We're talking 70 to 80 knots, 80 to 100 knots even, and those extremely high winds, if they get drawn down from the thunderstorm, that can mean some very damaging wind gusts, potentially up to 90 miles per hour in extreme cases, but common 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts in severe storms. And so that's the reason there's just such a high severe weather threat for these areas. And this is reflected in the GFS model. This is for 12Z Monday, April 13th. You can see that we have a wide area of purples coming through as that cold front comes through. And if you look at the map, that translates to 60 to 80 mile per hour or 80 knots, which translates to about 70 to 85 mile per hour winds. If those winds get drawn down from that thunderstorm, that could be very, very bad for areas that are under the gun from storms, and that could lead to a lot of wind damage, straight line wind gusts, etc., etc. Here is a high resolution model. This is the NAM 12 kilometer. This is for 13Z Monday. It shows pretty much the exact same thing. Winds 70 to 80 knots, even a little bit higher in this area right here. And one thing I want to focus on is some of the models are kind of centering with higher cape values, slightly higher cape values, and higher wind shear values in this region right here. And so that will be something to focus on. Again, these storms will not be a squall line coming through. It will be a line of disorganized clusters of storms, and so that supports the development of supercells and discrete storms. So while we will have a line of storms coming through, they won't be an organized, definite line like we had in the 2012 derecho. This will be more a line of storms that are disorganized, with a cluster of storms here, then nothing for 5 miles, and then or 10 miles, and another cluster of storms, and so that will support the development of supercells. And also in storms that are severe, that are having strong updrafts and downdrafts, you will see the potential for very damaging wind gusts, particularly in this area. I feel like could be under the gun, but also in this area right here, as you have more time for destabilization to occur. It's just interesting to note that the models are honing in on this area for higher wind shear and higher cape. It could just be a fluke or just a model error, but I think it is possible this area could see an intensification period as the storms come through here. Now, this is the NAM 3 kilometer model. This is for 14Z Monday. So the NAM has been interesting in having a delayed arrival time, and this will be very significant because if the storms do come through at 8, 9, or even 10 a.m. instead of 6 or 7 a.m., that would allow for a lot more instability to occur, and that would lead to more severe storms. The reason that the southeast right here is under a moderate risk is because they're going to have Cape values near 3,000 joules, while here we're going to only have Cape values at 1,000 at most, while many areas will even be between 400 and 800 joules. So if we see these storms arrive or come in later, we're going to see Cape values around 1,000 because there'll be more time for destabilization, and we'll see more severe storms, more wind damage, more tornadoes. If the storms come in earlier, like this model shows, with the line at 12Z already approaching I-95, you're not going to see as many severe storms, as many severe wind gusts, because there just won't be that much time for destabilization to occur. There still will be severe weather, no doubt about that. There will be severe storms, damaging wind gusts, but just not as widespread as if the storms come in at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. Now here is the NAM 3 kilometer sounding for Central Virginia. This is the 12Z NAM run, valid for 15Z. So again, the NAM has a later start time for areas in the Mid-Atlantic, has a delayed entry period for Central Virginia. And as you can see, just amazing wind shear. We're talking vertical and directional wind shear. Winds coming in due south right here, then quickly veering off to the southwest, and eventually almost west. If you look at this photograph, just unbelievable, complete curvature right here. Let me change pen colors for you guys real quick. If you look at the photograph, it's going like this, or more like this, and that's indicative of a lot more wind shear, very high directional and vertical wind shear as you go higher up. And as you can see, the Cape values on this are very, actually pretty impressive and respectable. We have MU Cape at 1,145, even 1,656. And this would not be the case if the storms came in or come in at 12Z or 11Z, like some of the other models are showing. The NAM is noticeably slower than some of the others. And if the line of storms did come in at 12Z, we would be seeing Cape values around 400 at most. And so that would definitely limit the amount of severe storms we would have. Nonetheless, we do have extremely strong shear for this time of year, just unbelievable, especially for this area. We have helicity values around 600, which is extreme. And the sounding shows this. You can see it's indicating possible hazard type tornado. Look at all these risks right here, 0.42, 0.19, 0.26. This is all very significant. So all the ingredients are in place. It just depends on the timing of the storms and how much instability there is. The wind shear is out of this world. We have crazy wind shear values. Look at this, 649, 744, 789, just unbelievable. I haven't seen this in a long, long time. This is almost unheard of in the eastern part of the country. You see this usually in the middle of the country and also the deep south, but never really in the mid-Atlantic. So again, if we have the wind shear in place, we have the extremely strong low-level jets supporting wind damage, and we also have some pretty respectable Cape, but that all depends on how late the storms come in. If they come at 12Z, we're still going to have the damaging winds, we're going to have the tornadoes, but they just might not be as widespread than if they come at 15Z or even 16Z in the Mid-Atlantic. Now here is the high-resolution model, the HRRR as I like to call it. It is also indicating a tornado hazard, like it should be. If you just look at the photograph, just amazing curvature right here. Wind shear, amazing. Look at this. Winds southeast and then veering quickly to the southwest in 3 kilometers. And it's also showing impressive Cape too. The models in recent runs have been increasing Cape, which is bad if you don't want severe weather. We're having Cape values around 716, 1,400. So that is not good if you don't want any severe weather. But if you are a severe weather enthusiast, these higher Cape values really increase the chance for severe weather in the for tomorrow. Now here is another model which sort of disagrees. It has a much earlier arrival time, 12Z actually, and you can see its Cape values are really not too great. It has good shear, right? So that's going to really help to create these thunderstorms, make a really friendly tornado environment, but you might not see as widespread you might not see widespread tornadoes, widespread wind damage. You might see here and there, you're going to see wind damage, but just not as widespread because those Cape values just won't be high enough. So it all depends on the timing of the storms. But you can see even the photograph here, very favorable for tornadoes to develop. So in conclusion, this is sort of my thinking of where the greatest severe weather threat is going to be, which is basically exactly what the National Weather Service and SPC are saying. I think essentially along and east of I-95, you're going to have the greatest risk of severe weather. It also points a little bit to the west in these areas right here. But yeah, I think these storms are going to come in tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. to around 11 a.m. That's the general timing for when they're going to reach I-95 earlier to the points west, and that's why the severe weather threat is not as high for these areas right here, because the storms will be arriving early in the morning. And that's why the severe weather threat is higher here, because storms will be arriving almost by noon along the coast. So again, I think 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. arrival time for the Mid-Atlantic, especially along I-95. Due to the low-level jet being very strong, we have big potential for straight-line wind damage. Due to the amazing shear that we're seeing, directional and vertical, there's a high potential for tornadoes. The National Weather Service is indicating that. And it all just depends on when the storms come. Regardless, we're going to see severe weather, but we just might see a lot more if we see those storms come in at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. But again, regardless, a big severe weather outbreak for tomorrow on areas in the Mid-Atlantic and eastern portions of the Southeast. So stay safe, stay tuned to your local TV weather station and the National Weather Service to stay ahead of the storm. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.